And I'm just waiting on notification again, Brother Alex. Okay, perfect. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an incredible guest coming back for part two, Brother Alex, who did so well on part one. So many inboxes, text messages, calls about your transparency. You helped free a lot of people publicly and I'm sure in private as well with your amazing testimony and your ability to tell stories. So we definitely appreciate that. First of all, assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. And we're excited about having you back for part two. Today, we want to discuss many topics, but specifically martial arts and a documentary that you were working on. Why are you so fascinated with martial arts?
Well, I consider Brooklyn, not even I consider, a lot of people consider Brooklyn a fight city. Growing up, there was a saying, head up or shut up, meaning, you argue back and forth a couple of times, and then eventually somebody will say, look, head up or shut up. And so that's how you're coming up. And, when you get older, you are blessed if you're paying attention to notice patterns in the world, patterns in your own life and other people's lives. For instance, a teenager, they don't live long enough to see what happens to people, even though young people die. But as you get older, you start picking up patterns. And I promise I'm answering your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I know, like when I was maybe 12 years old, I had family members, aunts and uncles, that started saying, they would look at me and say, boy, you're going to go to jail. And I'm not going to say that I didn't, like it came out of the blue, because I was fighting and things like that, getting kicked out of school. But I was 12. I didn't see that for myself. Then maybe 6 years later, I end up in jail, and I'm wondering, how did they know 6 years ago I was going to end up in jail? And it was because they were able, almost like the scientists, they were able to see I was acting a particular way. They'd seen it happen before.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A large percentage of boys that they saw doing the things that I was doing, they ended up in jail. So, but like I said, I used to fight a lot. And the thing about that is I come from what people would call a good family. I was raised by women, my mother and her sisters, and I went to private school most of my life. So it wasn't like I had to. And I wasn't bullied, nor was I a bully. To this day, I don't think I've ever started a fight. And I don't think I've ever really been bullied, but I would just find myself fighting. And I'm telling you this because as I get older, I'm looking at Allah's hand in it. Because the question you asked me about my interest, I asked myself that question because I've been allowed to meet so many unique brothers in the martial arts and outside the martial arts that it makes you start wondering, why is Allah putting these people in my past when it's not something I really ever looked for? Because I didn't have a desire to learn martial arts or to practice martial arts, or I really didn't have that much of an interest, but it was just it's always there. To this day, it's always there. So I got into fights so much when I was younger that my mother sent me to North Carolina to live with her sister, another aunt. And when I got down there, I ended up fighting even more because I didn't know anybody. And it was a small town, so almost all of the children had been going to school with each other since they were in kindergarten. It was like a big gang, And I lived with a cousin of mine who was a male that was my age, my cousin Todd. And at one point, I was about to get jumped, and he helped me. I don't know where he got a knife from, because I don't know where he got a knife from, and he was able to ward that off. And then after that, he told me that's not gonna happen again. You know what I mean? And that you're on your own after this. That's not what I do. I'm not, and So I'm saying all of that to say that these things kept happening. But the interesting thing about it in North Carolina was that I started losing fights. Because even though I was having a lot of fights, at a certain point when I got to North Carolina, I started losing fights. And that's when, as a teenager, I realized that people fight different in different places.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For instance, in China, you have the Northern Chinese and you have the Southern Chinese. In the North, you have the mountains, so they're used to being off the ground, and they have strong legs from climbing and walking uphill. So, and you look at the styles that come out of Northern China, they use a lot of their legs, and they do flips and think they're comfortable being off the ground. Then when you go down to Southern China, to Southern China, that's where you have the farmers. So they were used to working with their hands. So Southern Chinese styles, you see the blocks and the strikes more, like Wing Chun. Wing Chun is a famous Southern Chinese style, and they're famous for having like 3 kicks in the whole system, right? So, but I noticed that in America when I was younger, even in New York, people in Brooklyn fight different from people in Queens, than people in the Bronx, than people, you have to pay attention, but you'll see it. So I noticed, and when you're dealing with New York, Chicago, Jersey, Philadelphia, those are cities, Detroit, the city is not, we're not comfortable fighting on the ground because the ground is not hospitable. You have concrete, you have asphalt, you have glass, broken glass, you have dog feces, you have so many cars. So that's why you have a lot of boxers come out of the cities, because we're conditioned to try your best to get heat. Even with jujitsu, when you look at jujitsu, most places you go in the world, you say jujitsu, they're thinking of MMA. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is on the ground. But New York, Chicago, certain cities, the jiu-jitsu is stand-up jiu-jitsu. There's one of the grandmasters, Daryl Sargent. I met him at a seminar once, and he moved to Oklahoma. So the first thing I asked him was, what do they say in Oklahoma when they see your jiu-jitsu, you're standing up? And he said, they've never seen it before. They don't know what I'm doing. So you have that. So when I went to North Carolina, it didn't take long for the brothers down there, because I was getting in fights. They saw that how I fought. So it got to the point where they would just grab me, and I wouldn't know what to do with that. And then after, every time I would lose a fight, it was like somebody would pull me aside and they would tell me what I did wrong, because they would see it. You were doing all right until he grabbed you. And so it's like I had coaches, like I said, it was always kind of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So fast forward, I end up in prison, as I told you. And in the federal system, you have people from all over the world. And when I say all over the world, I mean all over the world. Everybody you see on television is in the federal system. The terrorists, the Colombian drug lords, the exiled Cubans, the Nigerian swindlers, everything you hear about, they're in the federal system. And as I told you, a lot of us were young, the younger brothers that went in, and we all kind of knew each other because we were like the first wave of younger brothers. But also, they had, at the time, 80-something prisons. So you're liable to end up anywhere in the country. And they ship you somewhere, you're 9, 10, 12, 15 hours from home. You kind of gravitate to the people that are from where you're from. And there was one brother there named Wali. He was a member of the Ansarullah community, the Ansars. You're from the land, you probably Dr. York.
Yes, sir.
Well, back in the 70s and the 80s, his group, they were Muslim, and they called themselves the Ansarullah, or the Ansars. Their base was in Brooklyn, and they always wore white. And I always liked fragrance oils, so I would buy oils from them. And somebody at some point told me that they were all martial arts killers, masters. I don't know, I'm sure they trained, but I didn't, somebody said all of them. So every time I would see them, I would have a fascination.
Yes, sir.
Well, he was part of that. And he and we didn't hang out together, but whenever we had time, we would talk. We genuinely liked each other. So one day he tells me, he said, I met this brother in the prison that's training me in martial arts. And Brother Jod, as soon as he said it, I was immediately jealous. And I couldn't fathom. So he's telling me about the brother and he's trying to describe him to me. So not only was I jealous, I was also confused because no matter how hard he tried to describe this brother, I couldn't place him. Now, imagine, we all in prison together. So, I mean, whoever he is, I see him every day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I see him every day, week, month after month, but I couldn't place the description. And it was driving me crazy. And so he's keeping me up to date with his training. I come to find out later that the brother, his primary system of fighting was ninjutsu. So I don't know if he was on some ninja thing. He knew how to blend in. Why I didn't see him, but I didn't see him.
Yes, sir.
So one day, Brother Wali comes to me and he says he wants to meet you. Now he didn't necessarily want to meet me. It's just that the brother. Now this is the funny part because I tell you what he told me. I have no way of verifying it, but this is what he told me, that he was a ninjutsu practitioner. And when he was in Vietnam, this is after I met him, he told me this, that he was a ninjutsu practitioner. And when he was in Vietnam, he was part of an all-Black unit called the Shadow Force, I believe it was called. And the Shadow Force, they were like Green Berets, but they were given the job. They didn't want to give the Green Berets because it was too dangerous, because the Green Berets were white. And part of their assignments were, whenever one of the American officers were captured, their job was to either go in and rescue the officer, who was always white, or to blow the whole compound up. So whenever they got the order that an officer was captured, they would just look at each other and they would go get the explosives and just blow everything. They never tried one time because the Vietnamese, they would keep the prisoners, from what I'm told, in the center of, like a Chuck Norris movie. They put you in the middle of the compound and you got to fight your way in, fight your way out.
Yes, sir.
They never tried. There was a Chinese individual named Master Yang that was like training them for the Americans hand-to-hand combat. And at a certain point, he said that Master Yang was, out of recognition for his service to American government, they gave him citizenship. He said he was leaving. He said, I'll be in San Francisco. And if you know, like Bruce Lee, San Francisco was like a hub of Chinese martial arts. So he told him, if any of you, you want to check me out, look me up, I'll be in San Francisco. So the brother Kenyatta, he was the only one that went to go see him. So I don't think the Chinese call it dojo, but it was a dojo setting. And he ran into Bruce Lee. Now, Bruce Lee is one of the Chinese martial artists and actors who they tried to kind of fit into the place of Bruce Lee after Bruce Lee died. So you have a couple of Bruce Lee movies out there. And so he showed Bruce Lee the ninjutsu, because remember, ninjutsu is Japanese.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And, those were Chinese brothers there. So he showed Bruce Lee some ninjutsu, and Bruce Lee showed him some of Bruce Lee's system, Jeet Kune Do. And Kenyatta was like a beat. So he would go around and he learned some of the animal styles, the crane, the tiger, the leopard, snake. He learned these things. So now that he's in prison, what he would do is when he taught Wali and he was comfortable with him, he would put in orders. For instance, I want to teach a brother tiger style. Tiger style is usually, those animal systems are based off body type and temperament. So tigers are known for their strength. Like in the store, they sell tiger bone. Tigers are known for the strength of their bones and their ferocity. So a person practicing that particular way, they have a certain build. Like if you watch the old movies, Bolo, remember Bolo? He would do tiger style. So he would put in an order. I want you to find me a brother, at least 200 pounds. So that, bring him to me. And if he liked you, he would train you. So him saying that he wanted to meet me wasn't that he wanted to meet me, but he wanted to teach somebody Jeet Kune Do. Told him I want somebody that's, wide. I was a lot skinnier. I want somebody, wiry guy, small framed. So that's how he brought me into that. And I remember meeting him in a bathroom on top of the basketball court where everybody lifted weights and played ball. In fact, it was on top of the weight room. And I get in there. He was a short brother. He was very dark, had a beard and had a do-rag on. And he walked on his toes like a dancer. And my first impression was that this dude was like a pimp. Because because he was from Detroit. Now, Detroit is a pimp city. Or
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Detroit, Milwaukee,
yes, sir.
Oakland. Certain places are known, they have a pimp culture. And even a lot of the brothers back then that weren't pimps, they had pimp ways. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if you would have asked me what he didn't look like a martial artist, he looked like a pimp to me.
Yes, sir.
And so the three of us are in the bathroom, and the first thing he asked, he looked at me and he said, "What do you know?" I said, "I just, last street fights. I don't know nothing." Right? And he says, "Okay." He said, "Put up your hands." And the first thing he taught me was how to break somebody's leg. He showed me. And that's all he would teach. He would teach breaking. He told me, he said, the closest thing to you when you're facing off with a man are his knees and his eyes.
Yes, sir.
He said, and if you practice going for the knees and the eyes and you get good at it, the average person will have a hard time dealing with you. And so he would teach like that. He would teach because it's prison also. So he's teaching in a very straightforward, direct, brutal. He's skipping over things. And for that reason, he only taught Muslims. He only would teach, and he didn't claim to be a Muslim himself, but he only taught Muslims because he knew that he was giving people dangerous tools. And he said that he didn't have to worry about Muslims using it over the telephone or using it over the television or using it over one of the boys or something. He said Muslims are men of peace. So he was thinking that a Muslim would only use what I'm giving them if you disturb their peace. So it was maybe just 4 of us. And again, now I'm telling you all of this because I look at this trying to see Allah's hand. Not see Allah's hand. I know his hand is in it because a lot of these things are they're not random.
Yes, sir.
Figure out why, what is the purpose. So we would train and we would have to hide because in prison, martial arts is pretty much outlawed. You can't have martial arts books. You can't practice by yourself. You're damn sure not supposed to teach anybody. I have write-ups here where, they have heavy bags for brothers to box. But if they see you doing anything martial arts related on that heavy bag, they'll write you up. So we would hide. And I worked in the mess. I worked in the chapel. And early in the morning, before the sun would come up, this was in a medium security prison at the time. Before the sun would come up, we would all get up and I would go into the mess hall and they had like an officer of the day kind of, so he had the keys to everything before the day really got started. So this is one thing that's strange. I would walk up to him. The first time I walked up to him, I said, "Officer, I work in the chapel. You think you could pop the door so I could get a head start on work?" And he just said, "Yeah, sure." And again, it's prison, brother. He, that was too easy. And so every morning it would be the same thing. I said, "You can pop he said, "Yeah, sure." He would walk, he would open the door, leave. And when he would leave, because it's dark outside, the brothers would come up out of the darkness and we'd go in the chapel and we would train for like 2 hours. And again, brother, that's not normal. In prison, everybody's paid to watch you. So I'm saying for 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, we were able to go in an area, train martial arts, which we weren't supposed to be able to do for an hour, sometimes 2 hours. And you're not supposed to be unsupervised. We could have been doing anything in there. We could have been doing anything. One day, only one time somebody came in. He wasn't a correctional officer, but he worked like in the drug program. So he comes in and we just stand there. It's like four of us. We're standing around, we sweating, breathing hard. And he's just looking around and we're looking at him. I know it probably smelled like a basketball court in there. And, so he knew we were doing something. He didn't know what we were doing, but he just turned around, left, and we just continued to train. And the brother, Kenyatta, he took somewhat of a liking to me because he would always say, he would be training us and he would say, see, you small like me, you can't take a lot of punishment. So he would always give me, so you do this and you do that. And he told me that it's for that reason why you should always be careful of women that are martial artists. He said, because when men train other men, especially when men are training men that have some size, it's like in your mind, you kind of, you don't really see this brother being manhandled, even though he may not have skills, but his size, his disposition, you just don't picture him just being a pushover a lot of times. But when you're teaching a woman, she can't take one shot to the face, that might be it. You grab her wrong, that might be it. So a woman brings things out of the teacher because she's always giving her, because he can picture her being in a bad position or a bad situation.
Yes, sir.
So that's my introduction to martial arts. And we were able to train maybe for like almost a year. And, eventually we parted ways. And when I came home, let me say this. He was very much against belts, and he was very much against the dojo structure because he said it was a money thing.
Yes,
for a long time, I agreed with that. So when I came home, I didn't train for 10 years because I didn't want to go to that. But as I got older, I realized that there's a purpose for that too. I don't think it's for everybody, but if you don't have structure, belts, organized training, then a lot of these things will get lost. So somebody has to devote themselves to preserving it. And I believe that those brothers that do that are special. I think that the ones that take the time, because to become a master in martial art, which I'm not, but to become a master in martial arts, that art has to almost be a religion.
Yes, sir.
I know a lot of martial artists who claim to be Christians and Muslims and Hebrews, but when you watch them, you see martial arts is their religion. That's all they talk about. That's what they do. That's what they spend. Their life revolves around martial arts, not their religion. I will tell you something interesting that I spoke to a brother. A brother posted something on Facebook once. And bro, please stop me if I'm going on too much, all right?
Man, take your time. Yes, sir.
I met a brother. Brother posted something on Facebook about Master Fard Muhammad training the early believers in martial arts. And that got my attention. And I found the brother and I called him. We ended up speaking for 2 hours. He didn't really give me anything to verify that. However, let's just say that's possible. That Master Fard Muhammad did give the brothers something, because I've heard brothers say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad could fight. There's a brother right here in New York, Brother James 15X, who I wish I knew the year that he was in the Nation of Islam, but I remember him telling, and I've asked him about it just to make sure several times. But he says Captain Yusuf Shah told them one time that he was in the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with Muhammad Ali. And this, I believe, was right before he fought Sonny Liston. It said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad took off his jacket and showed Muhammad Ali how to twist his punches. There's a brother that has a video on YouTube that was in prison with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he said that he saw the Honorable Elijah Muhammad fight. And his exact words said, man, brother, the messenger could fight. there's a believers meeting in 1964 with Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, all my ministers should know how to fight. And then he paused because it's like he knew what we were thinking. Because, you know, some brothers, you know, we fight hard with the word. He said, nah, both ways.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Both ways. So my point, if Master Fard Muhammad did in fact give that type of instruction, it had to be quick because he didn't come to make us all martial arts masters. So if he did any training, he was only, 3 years and some months. And, you know, most of that time, for what I was, a lot of the time was spent with Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we know they weren't training martial arts the whole time, and he wasn't training brothers in martial arts the whole time. So if he gave them something, it was very concise, sort of like the brother was doing with us in the prisons, right? I heard Minister Farrakhan at one of Grandmaster Aziz's seminars. This is the minister speaking to a room full of martial artists, and he spoke about the day coming when, as the enemy's world would start to fall and his veil of civility would start to fall away, and he would become more vicious and more direct in his confrontations with us. And he said, those of you who are, this is not a quote, those of you who are blessed to have this skill and this mastery, you have to go and teach our people, the women and the children, the men. He said, quickly. So that's my interest, to answer your question. That's my interest in not acquiring rank and not necessarily teaching, but acquiring the tools that I need, because martial arts is the art of advantage, is what I call it.
Yes, sir.
I started a business called Art of Advantage, and that's all it is. You know, these things give you an advantage. That's the same way the brother has the pistol. He's carrying a pistol. He feels the pistol gives him an advantage. You know, a person picks up a brick or a knife or a stick or tries to run you over with their car because they feel these things give them an advantage, not a guarantee, an advantage. That's why, because people get shot carrying their gun. You know, people get robbed carrying their gun. People get beat up that know martial arts. So all of these things, they just give you a little something extra, you know. And so that's my interest, you know. And I don't even know if, it is an interest. It is an interest. So anyway, I mentioned to you the last time about Brother Shahid and the work I was doing with him with the video. And when he told me about wanting to do a project about the Nation of Islam, I forgot to mention that actually the project that I wanted to do, and I still want to do it, I wanted to do a history of Mosque 7C in Brooklyn. Because when I sat with Brother Shahid on the corner of Bedford and Monroe in Bed-Stuy, he was saying, and I forgot what year, he said, this is the year the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stood on that corner. This is in Brooklyn. He said, yeah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stood right there. You know, and so I wanted to do something on that. And soon as myself and Brother Johnny, who's down there in Atlanta, decided that this was something we wanted to do, and he sent me the camera, he calls me one day and he says, have you ever heard of a brother named Victor Moore? I said, no, sir, I've never heard of him. He said, well, this brother said he beat Bruce Lee. He said, in fact, he said he beat Chuck Norris. In fact, he said he beat everybody. Next thing I know, I was in Atlanta in a hotel room, 2:00 in the morning, interviewing Grandmaster Victor Moore, and who has evidence that he actually beat Bruce Lee. Mm-hmm. He has evidence that he beat Chuck Norris. And he actually told me a story about him when he met Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But the next day, Brother Johnny told me that, you know, Brother Steve Muhammad is down here as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I didn't know who Steve Muhammad was. So I said, okay. So we go to his home, and he happened to be training brothers in his home. So, I mean, you know, I noticed something special about him, just the way he was training. It was very, it looked like us, you know,
yes,
similar
sir. Yes, sir.
to Moses Powell. His when you watch him and you watch his students and how he taught, it didn't look like black guys doing Japanese moves or black guys doing Chinese moves. It looked
Yes,
like
sir.
black that know something. And the thing that got me about Brother Steve, Brother Sabir, is that after he finished training the brothers in martial arts, he pulled up a chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he had his papers, and he started teaching about the thought traveling an average of 24 billion miles per second, and how just understanding and believing that increases your physical speed.
Yes, sir.
He spoke about the earth weighing 6 sextillion tons, and understanding that and believing that enables you to pull power from the earth. And so I turned to Brother John and said, we got to interview him. So the next day we came back, and he told us, we sat, interviewed with him, and he shared, a lot with us. But that did something to me, because I didn't know about either one of these brothers growing up. All I knew was fake Superman and fake Batman and fake Long Range, all of these things that white people made up. And here you got these two brothers. Like I told Victor Moore when I met him, I said, brother, I'm gonna do something with this interview. I said, because you have fans out there, but they don't know that they're your fans because they never heard of you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They hear of you, they will be your fans. Same thing with Brother Sabir. So it bothered me that I grew up all my life and I didn't know about these brothers. And so I said, well, I'm in Atlanta. There's got to be dozens of men like that in New York. So before I even got back to New York, I had the idea of doing a project called the Grandmasters of New York. And thanks to Brother Sabir, I didn't move in martial arts circle. I had started back training at the time, but I didn't know a lot of martial artists. But the fact that I had just come from interviewing Brother Sabir, and Brother Sabir's documentary was the first one I'd ever done. That allowed me to get my foot in the door, because a lot of these brothers, they grew up watching Brother Sabir. They saw him in Into the Dragon. They know of his fights. So they wanted to be, it wasn't about me. They wanted to be interviewed by the guy that interviewed Steve Muhammad.
Yes, sir. I understand. Yes, sir.
And so by the time I was done, I had interviewed over 40 masters and grandmasters, all Black, right here in New York. And that's again Allah's hand, because the brothers that I met and the things that I was able to learn from them, it's not ordinary. We have people that are born, live, and die. They don't even meet one person like that. I met 40. And from those 40, I was able to pick my teachers, and there's one brother I must mention. He's not my first teacher, but let me see. I don't want to leave brothers out, but there's a brother named Latif Sadiq. He was trained by Captain Yusuf Shah. He came in the Nation of Islam in the 50s. So he was trained by Captain Yusuf Shah and Moses Powell. He was one of Moses Powell's earliest students. He studied with Dr. Powell before Sanukas had a name, when it was called Self-Defense Fleet. And the way I met him was I like vampire movies, right? And one of my favorite movies is 30 Days of Night. So this is before you were able to download movies and what have you. So whenever I would see the brothers selling DVDs, I would look for that movie. So there was one Muslim brother named Abu Safi. I know him now. I didn't know him then. He's selling DVDs, and there's a sister next to him selling jewelry, let's say. And they're arguing. And while I'm looking for the DVD, he says something that sounded like Moses Powell to me. I never met Moses Powell. But he said something, but I had been doing all this research. He said something I said, that sounds like something Moses Powell would say. So I asked the brother, I said, are you a martial artist? And he got uptight. He said, brother, you don't ask people that. I would never tell anybody. So I responded with something that Moses Powell would say. I said, whatever happened to each one, teach one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And when I said that, it was like I threw a bucket of cold water on him. And he snapped out of the defensiveness and he just started talking. And he started talking to the sister about Moses Powell. And he mentioned him doing the one finger rollout. He said he was 230 pounds and he stand up on one finger. And Lady said, hell no, you can't not. She, oh, no. So they started arguing about that. So to kind of stop them from arguing, I said, well, sister, I have a picture of him on my phone doing just that. And when I showed her the picture, she said, oh, I got to call Gladys. I don't believe it. And again, that bothered me because I saw the way she responded, because I've heard people say about Moses Powell more than once that Dr. Moses Powell was the closest thing to Superman they'd ever seen. Mm. And so I start telling this brother what I'm doing, the interviews. So he says, well, he mentioned 3 brothers that I needed to speak with. I ended up meeting 2 of them. And he said, you got to meet Latif Sadiq. He's one of Dr. Powell's oldest students. Mm-hmm. But he said, I've been trying to get him to train me for years. He won't. In fact, a lot of brothers don't want to train with him because he's very brutal. He said the last person that he trained, he broke his leg in 3 places. And this is what the brother's telling me, right? And for whatever reason, I'm locked in on that. So I got to meet this brother. Right?
Yes, sir.
So it took me a while to get the numbers. I tracked him down. And when I called him, I said, what year did you start training with Dr. Powell? And when he said I think he said 1960. I said, so you was training self-defense complete. And he got very quiet. And he said, you've been doing your homework. He said, I haven't heard that word in years. And so we set a date to meet the next day. And out of all of those 40, I brought him up just to say this. Out of all of those 40 masters and grandmasters that I interviewed and met and interviewed, he's the only one that I prayed. Before I met him, I prayed to Allah and asked him to put it in his heart to train me. And when I went the next day, the first thing he said is, well, you remind me of the old fruit, because like I said, he was like a monk. In fact, after 1975, he went the wave with the Imam, but he loved the FOI so much that he became somewhat famous for shutting down drug spots in the 80s. Yeah, because he got into that because he would go from masjid to masjid looking for brothers that reminded him of the FOI. Brothers that shut down the spots. That was the closest thing he'd get to the FOI. So that's what he started rolling with. But he would never stay long because it was only a matter of time before somebody would speak ill of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he would leave that masjid, to the point where in his basement, he started his own masjid called Masjid Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Nobody was there. He didn't have students, but that was it. So when I met him, he didn't have any students. So we're interviewing, he's telling me about Captain Yusuf Shah, and he's telling me about training with the brothers and Malcolm X, and he's telling me about all of the history. And at a certain point, we go down into the basement where the masjid was and where he used to train brothers. And in the back of my mind, we interviewing him, but I'm waiting for the opportunity to ask him to train me. So when I saw the opening, I said, how much would you charge to train me? And he looked and he thought about it. And he said, $5. I said, he said, yeah. He said, every time you come see me, you bring me $5. And I started bringing brothers to him. And it gave him life because now his home, because he was married, he had went to Egypt and he had married a sister from Egypt. She didn't really even speak English. And at the time he was like 80, he was 82 years old when I met him. And for 2 years, I trained with him in that basement. And he was very special when it came to Dr. Powell because he was like a conduit, meaning when he would train me, and he would get so into the training that he would say, "You see what he's trying to get you to do," like he was like doctor, like he was still alive. You know, he wants you to move. He wants you to move. You know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so he passed a few years ago. And but I don't know if you wanted to ask something else, but I could go on and on.
Oh yes, sir. I have a few questions for you. Yes, I got a few questions for you. First of all, thank everybody who likes, shares, and subscribes to the People's Podcast. A lot of people are showing you love in the comments. Thanks to my sister Miriam and sister Naima, who was sending you the greetings as well. I can't wait to put this on YouTube, brother Alex. I had a few points I wanted to discuss with you, dealing with. The first point was the style of fighting. And I like how you broke that down based off the concrete, or, with the legs, the North, South Korea. This style, when I moved I'm from Naperville, moved to Atlanta with my family, came to Atlanta, and there was a style that everybody from New York seemed to be doing. And I got into a fight with somebody who actually put his hands up like this. It was like a New York thing, like prison thing, but they was like this.
Right.
And like I didn't know, like why what is that about? What about New York people? Was it like why would this become a thing? Why was that a thing?
Right. That yeah. So when you grew up in the 70s and the 80s, you see, whether you know how to do it or not, you would, even when we play for it, that's how we used to play fight, because that was but a lot of that has to do, like we talked about last time, a lot of it is the 5%ers. Now understand, like before guns, the most feared person in the street with boxers. Like I said, Brooklyn especially, but New York is a boxing city. So that's kind of like, especially if you were in jail, in prison, the boxer was the king, So 52 blocks. Now this gets lost because when you Google it now, you kind of see it being used as a boxing style or way to box. That's not really how it started. 52 blocks, Stato. Well, you have Stato, you have Jailhouse Rock, and you have Comstock Shuffle. Those are all prison fighting. So that, like we said, different countries, different cities.
Yes, sir.
Fighting. Well, in New York, the different prisons had different ways they fought. So the Comstock Shuffle, it was a footwork thing. The Jailhouse Rock was I forget exactly what differentiated Jailhouse Rock. Stato was just like no holds barred, anything goes type dirty fighting. But however, it kind of like came together, coalesced with the 52 blocks. Now, this is what I said as far as people making it into a boxing system.
Yes, sir.
The original concept of 52 blocks was actually a way to fight boxers. That's why when you see that, the boxers don't fight like that.
Yes, sir.
And if you study 52 blocks, everything they do is things boxers don't do.
Okay.
So it was designed, this is how you defeat a boxer, and so that's really where it comes from. And again, the 5%ers don't get a lot of credit, because the reason why you're in Atlanta and you see brothers still doing it, and I'm telling you, when I was growing up, we even play for it like that. It's because of the influence of the 5%ers, because since that's how they fought, that's how we wanted to fight. Just to veer off for 1 second, even in hip hop, everybody or most people know the story. They said the DJ was first. We had the graffiti writer, then we had the DJ. There was no rappers. The DJ put up a microphone on a microphone stand and allowed people to come up and just say what they wanted to say. The first ones to come up were the 5%ers, because they the only ones had anything to say. They were already, they would come together, today's math, they had the lesson. So, they would come up, my name is Just Law, and those were like the first rappers. So they were very influential when it came to everything back there. Even when you see the rappers with the b-boy stance, that's from the 5%ers. When they say talk about standing on your square, that's what that is, you know. So yeah, that's 52 Blocks. 52 Blocks was designed to combat boxers.
Yes, sir. And peace to the God and his attempt to use that move. I mean, the brother should have studied more, brother. He should have been like you. He wasn't a good representation of the 52 Blocks at all, but shout out to him. Peace to the God. Yes, sir. My next question was, it was a capoeira, right? The Brazilian style. I'm in history, and we watched a documentary on how the Black slaves in Brazil and South America would start to incorporate dancing so that the slave masters wouldn't know what they were doing while they were training to fight. So when you brought that up with the jail reference, I just wanted to say that was I wanted to say that. Okay, excellent. And then belts. Why? I'm familiar with Jeet Kune Do and Bruce Lee saying belts only good for holding up your pants and that type of thing. And I wrote a star right here. I'm going to put a playlist on the People's Podcast so people can see all of the grandmasters that I've interviewed, the martial artists from all around the country that I've interviewed on the People's Podcast. Some of them are for organized, structured dojos, and some of them aren't. Why did you become a fan of the belts in the system? Why did you become a fan of it?
Well, I think that, all right, the martial artists that I know for years, I've been suggesting that they follow the pattern of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had the task of teaching Islam to Black people, it's Islam. But he didn't say, okay, I'm gonna set up a masjid. And when you come in the masjid, you're gonna take off your shoes. And when you come in the masjid and you take off your shoes, you're gonna sit on the floor. And we're gonna have a guy dressed up like he's from Saudi Arabia, and he's gonna talk Arabic. And this is Islam, and this is what you have to learn. He didn't do that. So he said, you keep your shoes on. You're not gonna sit on the floor. We're gonna have nice chairs for you. We're not gonna have an imam speaking Arabic. We're gonna have a minister to serve you, to teach you in English. And then from that, they're gonna be, though, at the end, when you stand up and you accept from that group, I don't want to say, you can probably say the better ones of that group will want to know more. But we're going to teach everybody. We're going to teach everybody. And from those, you have a choice whether or not you would like to stay and learn more, become a part, and help. The martial artists should do that. You should have, and this is my opinion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That have open self-defense classes for our people, where you're given, like the brother taught us, where you're just teaching. And then out of that group, they're gonna be those that's gonna wanna learn your system. They're gonna want to get a black belt. They're gonna want to carry on the leg. Because the whole time you're teaching them, you're letting them know this is not, this comes from somewhere. This has a basis somewhere. But when you set it up where, all right, you come into to school and this is what it is. You pay, you get you a karate suit, you get you a patch, and you get spoon fed until you get to this thing. So, and now if you think about it, especially with karate, and there are a lot of great karate practitioners, but karate is an art that it's like a puzzle. Because when you come in and you're reverse punching and left side down blocking,
yes, sir,
nobody fights like that. You know, when you get in a fight, that's not how you fight. Absolutely. Same thing with the Chinese. When you people, you watch these Chinese dudes, they don't fight like that.
That's right.
But you know, it's part of a package, and that's cool. But not everybody wants that, and it should be set up in a way with those that don't want that. They still get to learn and train and able to defend themselves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I don't have a problem with the belts and all. And but you know, the belts are new.
Yes, sir.
The belt system is, I think what the 1800s, I believe, with the Kodokan in Japan. That's not an ancient thing. This is a few hundred years old. The whole practice of the belt.
Yes, sir.
But it's good. Like I said, it allows these. In fact, the belt system was established to keep people from losing the art, because in Japan, did I answer your question? I don't want to start talking something.
Yes, sir. You answered it. You answered it.
All right. In Japan, you hear people say martial arts started in Africa. I believe so, that it started with us, because if Shabazz took his tribe into that part of the world to conquer nature, then that's conflict. You even hear that even in slavery, that when white people ran into the Africans that were on the coast, one of the reasons why they were able to get through to them, to encourage them to get other Africans to sell to them, is because, and I hope I don't upset anybody when I say that, because I did read, I don't know if I read this, that a lot of the weaker Africans who were running from the wars went to the coast.
Makes sense.
And those are the first ones that the white Caucasians ran into. But if you go even further, we're taught that in the beginning, when Allah was self-creating himself, listen to the language. It says Allah went to war with
Yes,
the
sir.
dark.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It didn't say, now it said war. War means losses.
You teaching,
War
you teaching.
means you getting banged up a little bit, because they have words for when you just come in and you just take over. Routes, blitz, coups, they have words for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're taught Allah went to war with the dark. We hear about, again, Shabazz going into the, and I remember Brother Wesley spoke about this, a battle. I think he said it's the Battle of the Enu, where our people that didn't go into Africa and the ones that did had a big war.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him in fact, I have it still. He mentioned that on a radio program. So martial arts was around.
Absolutely.
However, again, like we said earlier, the different people have different temperaments and they bring different things. So from Africa, it goes to like Iran and India. Those people have a certain disposition. Then it goes to China. The Chinese, it goes to China from India with Buddharama. And they, according to the legend, when he ran into the monks in Shaolin weren't fighters. They were monks that were praying, and they had gotten very stiff from praying. And that's where the animals stopped, because he started, look, you got to be like the animals. The animals ain't stiff. The animals stretch. Look at the cat. First thing the cat does in the morning is stretch. So he introduced almost like a yoga type thing to the monks. And then eventually, as the temples were being attacked, the monks started learning how to defend themselves. But the Chinese are a smaller people. And the fact that the monks were spiritual. So when you see the Chinese style, there's an elegance to it. There's a precision. Like I said, with the sisters and with, smaller men, it brings something out of you. So you see in the Chinese system, there's ways that you get around the fact that people are bigger than you. You learn pressure points and you learn how to move fluid like the snake and things like that. So then, but from China, it goes to Japan. And now you kind of see Allah doing something with that, because now the Japanese, for like 1,000 years, they had a martial culture. They have an emperor that's just a figurehead, but the samurai and the shogun, they ran everything. If you weren't a samurai, you didn't even have a name. You was just the gardener or the carpenter or the tea. They didn't you might have had a name, but nobody cared to learn your name because you wasn't a samurai. If you weren't a samurai, you couldn't have a sword. That's how you got the ninjas, because they weren't samurai, so they weren't even supposed to have sword. That's why they have the stars and they have all of these other type of weapons. But they really weren't supposed to have swords. So now Japan they say that in modern the Japanese samurai were like the epitome of a warrior in this modern time. So nobody took it to the extent that the samurai did. And they were such warriors that their dilemma was sometimes the sword would break. Even though Japanese steel, like in what's the movie Kill Bill, Japanese steel is one of the hardest substances where they make some of those swords, they fold them like 1,000 times. So a well-made Japanese sword could cut through the barrel of a shotgun.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, but sometimes the sword, it would break, or sometimes they would drop it. But these men and some women, they were such warriors that they were like, well, how do you keep fighting when you drop your sword? You know, because they said, we're not giving up. So what happens when you drop your sword? That's where jujitsu comes from. That's where jujitsu comes from. So jujitsu is about nothing but kill. Jiu-jitsu is a brutal, deadly, violent martial art. That's where it comes from. All martial arts come from a period of strife in that country. So, but as white people came in, because the Japanese, because they had such a system based on the shogun and the samurai, when the white people invented guns, they fought for like 200 years to keep the guns out of Japan, because that just would upset everything. You know, you got a pistol. Now the samurai ain't so much anymore. So, but once the Western influence got into Japan, people stopped really practicing martial arts. People stopped carrying swords. They were destroying a lot of the swords. So the person that started up the belts, the Jiro Kano, and it got to the point where the only people that were doing jujitsu were the thugs, the criminals. It was associated with that. But the Jiro Kano was an educated man. That's why he introduced the structure to it, because he saw that they were losing it. So that's why he set up a structure. But the problem, if you want to call it that, is the same thing we have here. Once that period of strife and killing is over, because when people are dying, it's not about the dance or the shoes or the hairstyle. It's about who can survive. That's
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Surviving is sexy. So once the society calmed down, which happened here too, people didn't feel the need to practice martial arts or learn it. And even when he tried to preserve it, he knew that you couldn't teach it the way the samurais were doing it, because their thing was about just killing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So he took a lot of the killing out of the jiu-jitsu and he formulated judo. That's where judo comes from.
Go ahead.
And judo is, it's a beautiful thing. In fact, I would love to study judo because of his education, he was able to codify it in such a way where it's something you can really study.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In fact, and what he did, and he was so confident about what he came up with, he did like Prophet Muhammad. He sent out emissaries all over the world. And when they would get to your particular country, they would put out a ad in the newspaper. Whoever your heavyweight, whoever the heavyweight champion was here, the judo guy would challenge him in the newspaper. And that's how you get, when they sent an emissary to Brazil, that's how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comes from. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is really judo, because one guy went and he taught the Gracies, and then they formulated it for that. And even WWE, WWF, all of that comes from judo, because when they came to America, they would call out anybody, and they would show their skill. Then eventually they got lazy. So let's say you and I, we're judo guys, and they would come and they would say, who has to come out of the audience and try me? They got tired of doing that. So two of them got together, like, I said, look, Josh, what are we gonna do? Me and you gonna practice. I'm tired of this. We're gonna practice. We're gonna come up with a routine. And when I ask for somebody to come out of the audience, you come up, and we're gonna do what we practice. That's where fake wrestling comes from. So a lot of it comes from judo. Yeah. Oh, okay. So from Japan, with all of that, them refining it, it works its way back to us in America. But not just America, it also hit us in New York. Now, New York at the time was the closest you can get to those other countries where the strife, because of the crime and the gangs that was in New York in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, that generated a certain kind of march, like you said, the 52 blocks and all of that, because people were really fighting. The gangs were fighting. People were getting robbed. Women were getting raped. You had all of this going on. So you had all of these brothers with schools that you couldn't fake it. So the different schools competed on who had the most realistic and effective systems. So this went on for decades. So there was a time where the best martial artists in the world were in New York. And the best martial artist in New York and probably in the world was Dr. Moses Powell.
Mm. Ooh, praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Also, shout out randomly, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, big deal. Speaking of movies, took place in New York. You know what I'm saying? It was a big, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the Foot, the Clan, the samurai coming from over. Like when you telling us, I was like Ninja Turtles. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Shredder.
I think I'm gonna get my children. We're gonna watch it. I've never seen it.
Oh, you never seen Ninja Turtles? Oh, you gotta. But why you gotta say it's in New York and Shredder coming with the samurai and teaching the ancient style that nobody knew when he taught the masters of people with the foot. Not to be too nerdy, but boom, there it is. All right.
I'm gonna check that out. Check it out.
Okay, great. Yes, sir. I have a few more questions for you. But before we get finished, I want to have a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast. And I want to thank everyone who continues to like, share, and subscribe to the People's Podcast. Thank you very much. Every comment matters to all of our Facebook family. We appreciate you, to all of our YouTube family. Everyone who shares to their family and friends, we are greatly appreciative. Thank you very much. If you'd like to be a sponsor or donor, please cash app the People's Podcast. My brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need anything. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, both of which are available on Amazon. Please go get those two books. My sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually and to young girls right here in the studio in Atlanta, Georgia. We love our tiny dancers. Also, student minister Robert L. Muhammad, conflict mediation, squashing the beef out of the Southwest region, out of Texas. Thank you very much, brother minister. His wife, Sister Fudia Muhammad, Children of the Most High, giving the science of child rearing, giving birth to a God in the science of child rearing. Sister Sherry Muhammad, Asiatic Minds, AsiaticMinds.com, a STEM school teaching young kings and queens an amazing curriculum. Please sign Please sign your children up to AsiaticMinds.com. Fashion Gods, urban streetwear clothing for men and boys, 314-329-6009. Please reach out to him. He'll keep you dripping fresh. Fashion Gods. Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you anywhere in the country. Please reach out to him for your bow tie needs, especially coming up for Savior's Day. Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm coming right back to our brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning services out of Chicago. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, also Down Is Not Out on BlueStreet.com. And last but not least, my two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Thank you all very much. Boom, right back to our brother. And thank everybody who's in the comments and showing love. Brother Alex,
yes,
I wanted to address the Master Fard Muhammad question dealing with martial arts, as well as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. To me, since we're, two enlightened brothers, trying, students in the class of the gods, it would make sense that a man who came to save us, make himself known in 1930, and he's going to give us the supreme wisdom, the knowledge of God, knowledge of the devil. I would think he would know fighting would be. Yeah. I'm just saying, I would think that would have to be a part of that 3.5. Like somebody would have to say, if we raise up, are they going to try to kill us? If we say this, you know what I'm saying? So I would think the fighting and FOY class, the whole, there would have to be some form of fighting. That's what I just think. I think there's no way that he would come and not teach fighting.
Right, and it would have to be the best. I have there's a Savior's Day, I believe it's from the 50s, and one of the ministers, where he was speaking, he said, of Master Fard Muhammad. He said he fought many battles, and for every battle, he won a crown.
Mm.
So yeah, I and you know, Minister, like I said, like we're taught, Allah going to war with the darkness. Minister Farrakhan said fighting is good for the soul.
Absolutely.
Minister Farrakhan also said, he said there's sometimes Allah will put you in a position where you have to fight.
Allahu Akbar.
He'll put you in a position where you have to fight. And you're, you know, why would he do that? He said, so that he can help you. It make you, but you have to be in the fight.
Absolutely.
You know? And then he'll help you because some of us need to feel that.
Absolutely. Know? It was not you who slew them. It was I who slew them by your hands.
Right,
Praise be to Allah. Right. Yes, sir.
But you got to make the move, you know.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Are you talking my language, brother Alex? I can't wait to meet you. I wish you would have got to see us when I had the brothers like 4 years ago when we would drill and practice. Everything was drill, fight. See Joe Sabir Muhammad, it was like fighting, drill, wartime. You know, we had all the quotes from the Quran, the Bible, everything was about fighting. All right, excellent. My next question for you, sir, is I wrote down specific names of all of the. When can we get the documentary? When will it be released?
Well, there's maybe in the comment section. I have a YouTube channel where I've been releasing clips. And to be honest with you, brother, I have a lot of it done, but it hasn't come to me just what to do with it. You know. So what I do is to keep. I'll put together certain clips and just release it. And for a while, I was doing a lot of work with a lot of the martial artists were hiring me to like do commercials for their dojo. So for like maybe 2 years, that's what I did. Even a Christian brother named Archbishop Russell Davenport up in Queens, New York.
Yes, sir.
He's I think he's a Grand Master now, but he's an Archbishop of a church. For like a year, I went to his church every Sunday and filmed his service and hooked up his service so that he could put it up on YouTube. And me not being in the church, almost like with the martial arts, I really don't consider myself a martial artist out of respect for the ones that really devote their life to it. But at the same time, at 51 years, you know, I got a bag of tricks, you know, so that's what I call it. And I hope I don't lose my point, but when I was training with Soke Hassan Khalik up here, he told me once that you have some people that have never trained any martial arts, but they're 20, 30, 40, 60 years old. He said, for them to live that long, they know something. And whatever they know, that's their martial art. Because not everybody made it that far. And then there's another brother that passed, a good friend of mine. I never trained under him, but he was a friend of mine. He was 5%er and a professor, Kaysan Allah. He wrote a book called The Fighting of Allah. Very good book. Very good. With a lot of the 52, he was a 52 block specialist. So a lot of
yes, sir.
blocks. He had a saying, every man is his own style. So that's what I mean when I say I got a bag of tricks, meaning that if you're studying something and it doesn't fit who you are, you know, it's not going to really work that well anyway. Brother Sabir told me that. He said, you have a lot of martial artists that stick directly with what the Japanese or the Chinese taught them. He said, and they become good, some of them. He said, but the ones that become great are the ones that change to fit us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Those are the great ones. And nobody was greater than Dr. Moses Powell. And I don't think that he gets, his name gets mentioned a lot. But remember, he said Allah gave him Sunukus. My current instructor is Dr. Powell's highest ranking student. And he's Dr. Powell's highest ranking student. It's controversial bringing him up, but I will. He told me something.
What's his name? Can you say his name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Grandmaster Shem Yahuda. He's one of two people that Dr. Powell gave the title of chief professor. And not only is he's the first chief professor in the world, he is also the first professor, because those are titles that Dr. Powell started issuing and using. Now this brother is a Hebrew Israelite. This is what he told me. Nobody else told me this. He said, when Dr. Powell was a teenager, he prayed to Allah for a martial arts system for the modern man and woman. And he said that once he made that prayer, said he couldn't even sit still in his chair because it started coming to him. And he said that it got to the point where, as a teenager, Professor V would come into the dojo and damn near attack him. And he would say, who sent you? Because he would see this teenager doing these things that he didn't teach him. And as he grew in prominence in martial arts, people that wanted to backdoor Dr. Powell, they would go to Professor V, and Professor V would say, I can't teach you what Moses is doing. I didn't teach Moses that. And everybody knows he only had one teacher. There's a video that my teacher sent me today. It's on YouTube. I think it's called The True Meaning of Snooker. I forget, but Dr. Powell is older and he's teaching some brothers. And he said, I wish somebody would have stood in front of me and taught me this. He said, but nobody stood in front of me and taught me this. And he said, I'm telling you something, you're not hearing it. And I also heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him, Allah gave him that. Dr. Powell said, the name Sanukis, Allah gave him that. And this is a man that for 46 years, he taught martial arts. He never did anything else. And by the time that he died in 2005, there's nothing in the world of martial arts that he didn't teach, and it wasn't a part of the structure of Sanukas. Now, I've heard it said that there is no structure and there is no curriculum in Sanukas, and that's not true. I've seen it. 46 years of putting this together. Sanukas went through stages. It went from self-defense complete to Sanukas Rujujitsu, from Sanukas eye to eye, from Sanukas heart to heart, to Sanukas to the wall and back. It went through these changes. And by the time he died, whether it was Qigong, whether it was healing, whether it was fighting on the floor, kicks, anything that anybody is doing anywhere in the world of martial arts, he taught it. And that's how you see that it was from Allah, because he did in martial arts what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did with Islam. Because the way the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us Islam, it freed us from the Arabs and it freed us from the East. We didn't have to go to them for anything except maybe to learn the language. But we didn't have to go to them for any religious instruction because he gave us all. Dr. Powell did the same thing. That's how when he says he got it from Allah, you see the correlation, because by the time he died, there was nothing that we had to go to anybody for because he had already taught it.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Excellent. Okay, great. I have two more questions for you, Brother Alex. And thank everybody who thinks like, share, and subscribe to the People's Podcast. Yes, sir. What type of music do you listen to, sir?
I listen to hip hop. But even when I was a teenager, I had very particular taste, because you have different veins in I don't know if you ever heard of the group Stetsasonic. They're an old group, hip hop group, but they're out of Brooklyn. The brother, the lead guy, Professor Daddio, he told a story once where when they first started rhyming, we used to call it rhyming, he ran into some brothers that used to sell cocaine. And they asked him, yeah, we heard you rhyme. He said, yeah. He said, what's your name? And he had a different name then. He said, man, that's corny. Then he said, let me hear you. And when he rhymed, he said, that's corny. He said, in Brooklyn, we don't rhyme like that. He said, what we do is called gangster rock.
Mm.
And if you know Stetsasonic, they have a record called On Fire. That's how it starts. It's we're on fire. Our style is the gangster rock. That's why you have Biggies and Jay-Z's and Big Daddy Kane's. Because just like with the fighting, the boroughs rhyme
Yes, sir.
different.
Yes, sir.
You know, the north, south, everybody rhymes different. So yes, I listen to hip hop, and I tell a lot of the younger brothers that are into music to study Run DMC. Not because they were the best, and not because they were the best lyricists, or they were cool. But the reason I tell them to study Run DMC is because when you listen to their music, one thing that is clear, they spend a lot of time together. The way they would finish off each other's sentences, and even Jam Master Jay, you could tell they were tight. So even if you're not making music, that lets you know whenever you're doing something with people, you should spend a lot of time together. Like, if we learn in the ranks, you should spend a lot of time together, because that's when we get to know each other. And then maybe we're not writing rhymes together, but we're finishing each other's sentences, and we know each other's thoughts and looks and things like that. And you mentioned drilling. One of our DIs up here, Brother Alton, he came to Brooklyn once and we had a drill class. And I remember he said something that stuck with me. He said, if you get a group of brothers in a class and you take them out into the community and they're in ranks together, that'll have a certain attraction to the people. It would appeal to the people. He said, but if you take those same brothers and they're training together, they're drilling together, and then you take them outside, that attraction is multiplied because they really are together. They don't look like they're together. They are together because they didn't just show up there. Even when we leave, we're together and we're training and we're drilling.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Excellent. And thank everybody who continues to like, share, subscribe to the People's Podcast. Well, Brother Alex, I have one more question for you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, well, I have one more question, but I just want to make sure. Can you say your YouTube channel one more time?
Thin Man Ventures. That's 2 N's on man. So it's ThinMannVentures.
Ventures, yes, sir. And I humbly recommend, man, getting somebody to shop your documentary to Netflix, Hulu, all these places, man, Peacock and stuff. You got, man, you sitting on something.
It's funny that you say hip hop with that, because the way I've done it so far is kind of like old school hip hop style. If I like some music, I just use it.
Yes, sir.
So I have the music that I use. I don't have clearance for it. So
okay.
Because a lot of it, like you said, what type of music? It's a lot of my work is driven by the music. That's what keeps me interested when I'm editing it, and I include that. So I'm not sure what and how, because like I said, with your first question, I'm still trying to figure out why I'm even on this road to begin with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful. Well, yes, sir. Well, my last question for you is, what would you like your legacy to be, sir?
It's not just, well, we're taught. I remember once when I was in prison, I saw a lecture from Brother Jabril, and he started mentioning the hereafter. And he said, pray for that. It's worth praying for. And I do that every day. I believe the worst thing that could happen to a person is for this world to fall and the new world come in and you be erased from it. Because we're told there's some people, it'll be like you never existed. So when you say legacy, the greatest legacy is to make it, to see the new world come up, to be a part of it so that your name can live. And because you'll be on your family's wall forever. You're the one that got the name, he got us in the hereafter, so that's what any accomplishment or goal is always with that in mind, because Master Fard Muhammad didn't come for us to integrate with our enemy. And like I said last time, the way that they recognize us is how well we fit in. You know, our education, everything is designed for us to fit in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So really, when it comes to goals and aspirations, none of mine include them. You know, so legacy would have to be, for me, it would have to be with the winning team.
Beautiful. Brother Alex, I look forward to meeting you in person, inshallah. And hopefully doing some work as well. Anything that you anytime you want to come back, the podcast is yours. And anything that you're working on that I can be a part of, it will be an honor for me to work with you, brother Alex.
Yeah, well, next time, because I come down there often. Me and the brother, I'll keep talking about, brother Johnny. I go down there and I visit him. So next time I'll definitely give you a call.
Please, the honor will be mine. And thank everybody who's watching. I'm about to put this on YouTube. Please continue to like, share, subscribe to the People's Podcast. Brother Alex, where can people find you on social media? Are you on social media?
Yes. My social media is Silas Shah, SILAS SHAH. That is I think it's called a nom de plume. I was in the process of writing a book when I first came from prison. So that was the name I was writing the book under. So when I first set up my Facebook page, it was really just supposed to be for business purposes. But then, you start, having children and things like that, family pictures and things work their way into it. But also, in fact, I have another YouTube channel, SILAS SHAH on YouTube, where there's a lot more like Brother Jabril, Brother Abdullah's lectures up there.
Praise be to Allah. Excellent. Well, thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. On behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we wish you the greetings. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam. And pardon me for talking so much, brother.
Oh, brother, man, that's what the show's about. That's what we came here for.
Yeah, I gotta know how to put on the brakes sometimes.
Man, you gave us a lot of information as well as inspiration, and I got a lot of notes to study from things that you brought up, so I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you, bro.
Thank you. Walaikum salam, sir.